All right, one more example. Let's set this thing up right here. What you see is I'm dividing this binomial into this trinomial. And when I set it up with the actual divisor dividend quotient, here we go. So it's x plus 6. And what I want you to notice, if you haven't already, check this out. There's an x to the third, an x squared, but there is no x to the first term. So you're going to need to make sure you hold a spot for that, though, when you set this up. So I'll keep going like this. I'm going to push over plus 1. So I have a spot here held for the x to the first. And you don't have to necessarily do this. I'm going to recommend you do it, though. Put in an actual 0 x to the first so you still can visually see that particular spot is still needed to be taken care of. Yes, it's not up here, but 0x is still certainly okay to put in there. So don't just leave it blank. I put a 0 in there. And now we start our steps. So I will take this dividing the dividend's highest power, that's this thing right here, by the divisor, that's this thing right here, highest power. So x to the third divided by x just gives me x squared. X to the third divided by x gives me x squared. That x squared goes on top. Awesome. Step 2, I'll take and distribute this x squared to both of these things, which gives me x to the third. It goes underneath. Keep my things in order, remember. X squared times 6 gives me positive 6x squared. And now I'm at step number 3, where I must subtract. So I change this sign, I make that negative, and I bring down everything. So this goes to 0. This goes to negative 2x squared. This just stays plus 0x. This just stays plus 1. Beautiful. And now I do not have a constant, so I must repeat my steps. Step 1. So I am now back to this, concerned with first thing and first thing. When I divide negative 2x squared by x, that gives me negative 2x. So negative 2x goes up here in my x to the first column. Notice all my x squareds are in a column. My x to the thirds are in a column. Nice and organized. So I will now distribute. I couldn't think of the word. So negative 2x I take times this gives me negative 2x squared. And then negative 2x times this gives me negative 12x. Beautiful. So I'm now to step 3. I'm just repeating all this stuff. I got to be very, very careful. So I'll subtract my actual, when I subtract, I'm going to change colors. So when I subtract this, it changes sign. So I put these things together. That means this goes to 0. Good. Hey, side note, if you're not getting 0 for this first thing, something's wrong. Because that's the whole point for doing this long division, that you keep on eliminating a first term, until you get down to a constant. So just make sure you keep doing that. This gives you positive 12x. Nothing here, so I bring down this 1. So I don't have a constant. I got to keep going. So again, I'm back to the top. Divide the first thing into the first thing. 12x divided by x. Whoops. 12x divided by x gives me 12. So positive 12 goes up here. And now I shall distribute. Gives me 12x. Distribute gives me, whoa, gives me 72. Woo. There we go. So I must now subtract. So subtract here. What? I'm using yellow. That doesn't make any sense. Let's use red. So change sign. Change sign. That means this goes to 0 and this goes to negative 71. So there is your remainder. That's my constant. I'm finally done doing my steps. So now I just got to write my answer, which is x squared minus 2x plus 12. It's all of this. Add the remainder. So I add this division bar. Divisor goes in the bottom, which is x plus 6. Constant goes on top, which is negative 71. And ladies and gentlemen, there's your answer. Bingo.